had to paint a gazillion doors and door fronts. And no, I did not make these. These are from CabinetNow.com, custom sized, arrived to my doorstep, sanded and ready to paint. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I built this drying rack so I have somewhere to dry all of those doors. I'm cutting grooves in both ends of 4 2x4s. The long boards I can't cut on my table saw, so I'm using my track saw. After making a series of passes, I knock out the remaining wood to create 3.5-inch wide grooves. I made my passes a little too far apart, so I had to grab my hammer. My thumbs are always surprisingly not as strong as I need them to be. I cut the second end of the short boards on the table saw, using my miter gauge to keep the wood straight while I pushed it through the cut. If I owned a sharp chisel, this would have been a time to use it, but I don't, so I had to use a belt sander, which made quick work of cleaning up the grooves. I used 1.5-inch long construction screws to secure the half-lap joints. I'm not using wood glue because I don't want anything permanently attached. I definitely overdid it on the screws, but I wanted my temporary joints to be strong. My frame portion of the drying rack is 20 by 80 inches tall. I hadn't worked out exactly what I was doing with the base yet, so I just secured a couple 20-inch long 2x6s so it would stand up. I used 1x3 furring strips for the arms. I cut them down to 36 inches long and then ripped them all in half. I marked the center of these boards and then started two 2.5-inch long screws in each board. After attaching them to my frame, they were a bit tippy, so I tried off-centering the screws. That didn't help much either, so I think using wider boards for the arms would probably be a good solution. I used a 1x3 spacer while attaching the arms to the frame. I started attaching the arms on the outside. About halfway up, I switched to the inside so the arms would be closer together for smaller doors. Then I decided what to do about the base. I added 2x4s across the bottom of my 2x6s to give me a surface where I could secure casters. It definitely would have been easier to figure out the base before I installed the arms. Also, put the washers on the screws before you have your hands full of drills and casters. Makes the task so much easier. I didn't work my way all the way up the frame. I stopped where it looked like I had plenty of space for 40 doors that I needed to paint. It wasn't, so I had to stop in the middle of painting to add more arms. And speaking of painting, I always get asked about my sprayer. It's a Graco 390 airless, and I use a handful of tips depending on the material that I'm using. Generally for cabinets and cabinet doors, I use Sherwin-Williams Pro Classic, and I like the Zim additive. So I purposefully didn't use any glue on my drying rack because I am going to disassemble it now. I don't paint that many drawers very often, so I'm not going to keep this giant thing assembled in taking up that much space in my garage. So just keep that in mind if you are going to use this concept to make a permanent drying rack. You might want to use some wood glue and a bit wider slats. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.